Capital cities are embodiment of authority. There are various reasons why we move our capital cities to a different location. The seat of power in modern times lies in different segments. They may be administrative, judicial, and legislative. Some countries have opted to decentralize this in multiple locations, recognizing officially, like in case of South Africa, where they recognize 3 capitals: Cape Town as legislative, Pretoria as administrative, and Bloemfontein as judicial capital. There is certain competition between cities to host as capital. This identity crisis came into being mostly in the aftermath of World War II, when decolonization of European countries progressed to form many new boundaries. In a similar case, Sydney and Melbourne each wanted to be capital of Australia, but finally resolved a plan to build a new city of Canberra. India also faced a fate, but not so similar, when in 1911 the capital of British India shifted from Calcutta to Delhi. Delhi used to be the capital during the Mughal times. After British invasion starting from the Bengal region by British East India Company and then further taken over by Royal British government, they declared the wealthy city of Calcutta as its capital. But after controversial division of Bengal in 1905, it was decided to shift the capital. On 12th of December 1911, King George V of Britain declared and laid foundation of New Delhi at the event of Delhi Darbar. He wanted to establish himself as the Emperor of Imperial Colony of India and Delhi as its capital. British architect Edwin Lutyens was commissioned to create a new capital city as a counterpoint to the medieval sprawl of Old Delhi. Once Lutyens won the contract for designing the new capital, Sir Thomas Holderness, the permanent secretary at the India office, persuaded him to share the commission with Herbert Baker. Lutyens was more than happy to bring on board an old architect friend. A town planning committee was formed immediately with Lutyens and Baker as architect, John A. Brodie as engineer, and S.C. Swinton as municipal expert. There were several other architects as well who contributed to other projects. They chose a rocky outcrop called Raisina Hill as the new site. As per agreement, Lutyens would design the overall layout of the city, the Viceroy's house, now known as Rastrapati Bhawan, princely residences, and India Gate, while Baker would take care of the twin Secretariat buildings and the Parliament. Lutyens initially designed the city layout in a rectangular grid format with streets crossing at right angles, similar in lines of New York. But Lord Hardinge, the then Viceroy of India, insisted him to study plans of Rome, Paris, and Washington DC to curb the prevailing dust storms that sweep away landscapes. This inspired him to follow a hexagonal grid. In the story of building new capital, old monuments were also kept and made part of the linkage. Monuments like Humayun's tomb and Safdarjung tomb were kept intact at the end of it. It was important for the committee to preserve the history that Old Delhi was carrying while building the imperial capital. Lutyens initially designed the capital region in a purely geometrical pattern with hexagonal and triangular intersection of streets. The central avenue was planned towards an acropolis-like design with Viceroy's house at the Pantheon. Initially, only Viceroy's house was supposed to be at the top of Raisina Hills, following other buildings at the lower level. But Baker insisted on including Secretariat as well. With Viceroy's house and Secretariat as symbol of authority was located at one end, while India Gate and Chhatri at the other end to commemorate the fighters of World War I. The dot further connects to Connaught Place, which came up as a commercial hub. Lutyens and Baker were not fond of Indian classical architecture. They had practiced entirely in Europe or Dominion states. Lutyens regarded Indian architecture interventions as mere spurts by various mushroom dynasties with as much intellect as there is in any Art Nouveau. Indian buildings, according to him, reflected a childish ignorance of even the basic principles of architecture. Baker too felt that Indian architecture lacked constructive and geometric quality necessary to embody the idea of law and order which had been produced out of chaos by the British administration. Lord Hardinge played an influential role in the planning of the new capital. He finally decided upon Western-style classical architecture with details being filled up with Indian motifs. Lutyens and Baker found sufficient ground to create a harmonious set of buildings on the rise in a hill, create a blend of best of elements from east and west. Lutyens' Viceroy house looks more classical with not so much of conscious blending of the west and east. He was perhaps more keen on creating a new architectural form. Various Indian elements were added to the building. These included several circular stone basins on the top of the building, traditional Indian chhajja, red sandstone jalis inspired by the Rajasthani designs. The front of the palace has 12 unevenly spaced massive columns in the Delhi order capitals with Ashokan details. The iconic dome was inspired from Buddhist stupa of Sachi, while Mughal garden incorporated both Mughal and English landscaping styles. On the other hand, the difference in their respective architectural perceptions manifested in the buildings they designed individually. Baker's twin Secretariat buildings combine European-style columns and Renaissance-like dome with Indian architectural elements like use of red sandstone, jalis, chhajjas, chhatris, as well as elephant heads on the pillar capitals. Baker's design manifested more consciousness towards blending east and west. The Parliament building was supposed to be designed in a triangular shape by Baker, but Lutyens insisted on having a circular form. The shape of building is inspired from Chauncet Yogini Temple of Madhya Pradesh. The periphery has a continuous corridor along the colonnade on facade. At the center of the building is the central chamber, and surrounding there are the semicircular halls that were constructed for the sessions of Chamber of Princes, now used as Library Hall, the State Council, now used as Rajya Sabha, and the Central Legislative Assembly, now used as Lok Sabha. The Lutyens Bungalow Zone is an area of low-density development comprising of government and privately leased bungalows, which was originally reserved for senior gazetted officers. They are surrounded by enclosings of large gardens with high proportion of trees and shrubbery. The bungalows have an Indo-Sarsanic style with simple attributes. The plots have a ground coverage of 16% and an allowed dwelling units of 7,000 to 8,000 square feet in area, with a maximum height of 25 feet. Named after Prince Arthur, 1st Duke of Connaught, the plans of Connaught Place features a central plaza based on the European Renaissance and the Classical style. Its Gregorian architecture is modeled after the Royal Crescent in Bath, UK. Connaught Place had only 2 floors, which made almost a complete circle intended to house commercial establishment on the ground with residential space on the first floor. The built circle was eventually designed with 2 concentric circles, creating pathways for an inner circle, middle circle, and the outer circle, with 7 roads radiating from the circular central park. The colonnaded passages, which are double-heighted and partially open, creates a hallway which is comforting and easy to house the large population that flocks to this central hub of Delhi. This in addition creates a strong force for easy mobility of such large consumer and traveler community of people. Lutyens also designed princely residences for the rulers of large princely estates of then India. It was an attempt to bring these states closer to the imperial government and project themselves as legitimate rulers of India. Lutyens designed Hyderabad House, Baroda House, and Patiala House. Further, another British architect, Charles Blomfield, designed Jaipur and Bikaner House. There were other houses designed by kings of other states named Kota House and Dholpur House. All these houses are located around the India Gate Plaza. The common feature among the houses designed by Lutyens was his own nonce order and Indo-Sarsanic design for Delhi and the butterfly-shaped planning of these buildings. The same feature was then followed by Blomfield in his buildings as well. The capital region was partially spread out with an open green vista which continues today. The government has decided to initiate an efficient uses of organization. A much needed new parliament building has been approved to accommodate members of parliament of both houses spaciously. There has been a debate to facilitate the dignitaries in the bungalow zone, which is sparsely populated and does not go with the population density of the people living in India. Apart from this, a lot of money has been spent every year in maintenance of such large bungalows with unused rooms and wide gardens. This gives an elite idea and separation from Indian society. The sprawl has a very vast and breathing green landscape, which is a character in itself. The objective of every redevelopment should be aligned towards retaining the order and key characteristics. At the same time, have more efficient and advanced methods incorporated within. It is also important to preserve this because the money, the work, the effort, the craft was driven by Indian people living back then.